Dungeon Mastiff, a channel about creating original D&D content right here for you. If you like this video, please consider supporting us on Patreon at Dungeon Mastiff, or please subscribe to let us know you've liked this channel. Another quick update for today, we're not doing very well on our quest for 20 subscribers by October, so if you're watching this video, please take a moment to subscribe. It would mean a lot to me, and without it, we can't keep this channel going. Alright, today, I'll be telling you about my top 5 tips for using Dungeondraft Part 2. Alright, so here we are at the start of yet another video. So let's go ahead once again and click on the new button and the A3 map and select OK. And once again, while this is loading in, we'll just think about, well, I'll tell you about the first tip that I'll be telling you about, which is creating a structure for your map. So for example, just to demonstrate, let's go into the design tool, and then let's say the wall tool. And if you've seen our previous video, top 5 tips part 1, which the link will be in the description, you know that I like to use the wall tool and the pattern shape tool for better control and so forth. So if we lay out like a rectangular base for like a house or so forth, just like so, then go to the pattern shape tool down here, select this kind of floor, this woody floor, and just drag it in. You know, why didn't that work? We just drag it in like so. Alright, the base of a house, there you go. And then let's, okay, so just for demonstrating about how laying out your map or creating a structure for your map is really important. If I was to just create a house based off of this, I might go, oh, chuck a wall here, you know, chuck a wall here, so forth, and I'd make a bunch of rooms and so forth, but I might just want to change it up later, and that would just make like a really messy and not good map. No, not good. So what we're going to do is we're going to designate space for each of the areas. So let's say this might be like a little bedroom or something, and we'll have like a small entryway right here with like a hallway coming out the top, just like so, and it like wraps all the way around, I don't know, like that, and then maybe it opens out into a kind of kitchen-y area. Let's draw this like that, all the way down, and it opens out here into like a kitchen-y and then dining room area. Great, we've got like the basis of a map. This is perfect. But the advantage of having like this layout versus just like that empty square we had before is that you can go, oh, I don't like this anymore. I think maybe we should change it so that this wall goes here, and so forth and so forth. It just saves you a lot of hassle way further down the line, and that is why creating and designating spaces and areas in your map before you even start going through with it is my number 1 tip. Alright, tip number 2. This is particularly relevant if you're using some sort of natural scenery. So let's go ahead and select all of this and delete it, because I'll show you some natural scenery that for demonstration. So we got our blank map again. Let's change the terrain to grass, like that, and let's just make like the outline of a little clearing, so that, you know, like turn the intensity up to 8, and let's do the blocking out strategy that we did before. So sometimes I like to use walls to designate areas of where I'm going to do map. This is if like I'm getting really specific, or like doing a map for our Patreon where I have to be like really, you know, specific and accurate. So sometimes I mark out places where the map, like where the different areas are going to be, like that. Maybe there's a river coming down the side like this. Easy. So now we've got like an idea of where our stuff is going to be, and then we go through with it. We start, once we're happy, we start filling in the areas with like the corresponding details down the bottom. Alright, like that. And maybe on the bottom of our riverbed, once we're done with this, on the bottom of our riverbed, we'll grab some dirt. Perfect. And then block in areas like that, all the way around and down. Fill that all in. Great, yeah, okay, amazing. Let's get rid of these walls here. Alright, the basis of a map. And now, let's just zoom out for a second. Wow, this is not looking very good. So, my second tip is to make the layout of your map rougher, less accurate, and less boxy, if you know what I mean. Make sure it like natural things never overlap with the grid. They almost never, you know, follow a straight linear fashion. So if we go back into this, into the terrain, get some of our sand again. Let's fix this up. Let's make it more of like a circle, round out the top a bit, and make the path a bit wobblier. And if you saw our last video, I demonstrated how to make a convincing looking path using grass and sand, so you'll have to check that out to know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm just trying to make the clearings look a lot more natural. And you know, like, there's a lot more steps to refining this, but already this is looking way more like natural. You know, it's got like a lot more shape, definition, and you see, even though it's still in like the early stages, in my opinion, are one of the most important stages, because you don't go back over it. This is like the basis of your map, you know, the basis of your creation, and that is why making your layout rougher and less accurate and less boxy if you're doing a natural scene is my tip number 2. Alright, tip number 3. Again, this is for maps. I generally don't do this all the time if I'm doing like a quick map, but if I'm taking my time on my map, and I really you know, encourage you guys to get into the habit of doing this, select a color palette. Now what for this one, we're gonna have like some forest around here, around this trail, so let's get our color palette, like some main items we're gonna use, like that, some water, maybe some leaves, boom, and maybe not like another tree, another kind of tree. That stuff looks interesting. So like, these are our 4 main you know, ideas. We've got like a color palette or an idea of what we're working towards, and now as we've laid out, this area is going to be forest around here, and this grass. There's going to be, I don't know, something will be in here, and there's going to be like this water on this riverbed. And now that we've got our color palette, we can easily work towards making our idea of a map being a reality. So if we start getting rid of this, like that, and then if we go onto the water brush, press Alt, we can get rid of that. And then we can start blocking in our actual details. So if we go to the scatter tool and then tree, I can't type, tree, and then we find the trees that we picked out before, and then just click and drop them in. Turn off snap with an S, with like the S key, and that allows you to place trees more freely. Alright, yeah. If you saw our first video, I showed you how to make a realistic looking forest base. But again, for the sake of demonstration, I'm not doing that here. This is just an easy, quick demonstration. And then we go into our water, lay down a bit of water here. Alright, that's the edge of our water. Just like that. Okay, get rid of these lines. I like the edge of the map. I hate those. It just doesn't look natural. Just like that. Alright. Yeah, this is turning out a bit better than I expected for like 2 minutes of work. It's giving me a kind of like beachy, sandy vibe. I like it because our planning has really helped us create like a structured kind of map here. And that is tip number 3. Choose a color palette and work towards that. Alright, tip number 4. Now, in my opinion, for making a realistic and good looking map, this is obviously my number 1 tip. And it is to choose some small details to break up the monotony of like this big block of trees and so forth. So before, when we were laying out our color palette, this tree really caught my eye, and instead of having just like a green, you know, sandy and then blue, we need to have, you know, introduce that kind of that earthy kind of aspect. Let's put that tree right here, and we can move later. Get rid of this one, drag it there. So already this is just looking way better than before. We had like a couple of boxes of sand and a squiggle of dirt. We've got, our planning has really paid off in the way that it draws our eye across the map. So like our eye instantly starts, you know, somewhere around the center towards the bottom. We look down here, follow it up, see this interesting looking tree detail. And this is, I just can't stress how important it is. I see a lot of beginners use their maps in the way that they just drop in a bunch of trees, and while it's cool and everything, I like to do a more detailed approach, which is like the 3-layered forest approach that I usually do, but also these details, they're just so important. They make the map look so much better. And then now let's just work on these details. So I can't type. Let's look up some leaves. Oh, I forgot we're not on scatter. Anyways, try and go under there, and we're continuing the vibe of like a brown kind of area here. Then if we take these normal looking leaves and just drop them around everywhere, wow, this is looking way better than before. All these details, all these tiny little details really bring out like the best in the map. And again, I just can't stress enough how important it is to include these tiny details in your map. It just makes them look so much better, and it is so worth your time. Alright, for our final tip number 5. I'll talk to you about lighting. So you might go, oh yeah, this is a pretty good draft for a map, you know, just your standard encounter map, you know, like people walk up here. There's not too much detail because it's supposed to be focused on the action if you're doing like a tabletop RPG or something, you know. This is kind of a non-detailed, you know, basic scenery encounter map, which is fine, you know. Let's export it. So save it as something like when my saving thing loads, which might be never. Let's see if this, okay. While that's waiting to save, oh, here we are. Alright, test, let's just name it something like test 1. Alright. And then we go back onto our map, and then our final thing before we export it, in my opinion, you should always do this. Always use lighting unless you're going for a specific non-lighting thing, or you have to plug it into something like Foundry or like another tabletop RPG kind of software where you put lighting on there. But anyways, I like using ambient light. So to get there, you go into the lighting tool, which is below scatter, which is below the objects. You go into the environment tool, and then you click environment here, and that gives you ambient light. And with our color palette before, we're mostly kind of going like an earthy, grassy green forest, which is cool. So that gives us an idea of where we want to be in our color palette. Let's just get a bit of more like light, because there's like a light blue and some sand in here, and maybe drag down the intensity a bit. And alright, this just gives us a really cool base for our map. Already this is looking kind of dark and cool. And then what I like to do is, if you have water anywhere in your map, crank up the range on like one of these pinpoint ones, change the color to blue, and just click off map somewhere. And it still places the light down, but you can't see it. It just gives like this ambient blue glow to the water, which I always think is really cool. And like combined with the kind of like rippling that it does in the software, like for example, if I put an object under the water, the Dungeondraft software actually makes it ripple like that. So if you have like something underwater and it's rippling and there's light, it just looks really cool. Like the shadow, it's just so amazing. Yeah, I love lighting. And let's go back to the object tool, and like to provide light to the mainland, let's look up like a lantern or something. Oh, I spelled that right. And let's drop in some lanterns. Like if I was being more fastidious with this, like I would not leave a map just as bare as this. I'd include some more little details. Maybe sit these lanterns on top of posts or something to make them look cool. But for the sake of demonstration, go back to like this normal light, and boom. Just look at how much better that looks than before. That is just like a really cool kind of vibe. And I think all those tips combined really help create a really cool map. Also, thanks for watching this video, and please make sure to check out top 5 tips for Dungeondraft number 1. The link will be in the description below. Also, please consider subscribing, and also comment your video suggestions, because if we hit 20 subscribers by October, we'll be taking a video suggestion from the comments of this video or the last one, and making it into a video for you. So just hit that subscribe button, comment below, and I'll see you in the next one.